It's hard to think of a more harrowing job than being a police diver. Groping around in the mud and silt of creeks and waterholes, dams and rivers, searching for something nobody wants to find. From nightfall on Sunday through the moonlit hours and on through most of Monday, the divers of New South Wales Police Marine Area Command searched the cold waters of a dam on a rural property for human remains, the bodies of two bright, handsome, talented young men who were not there. Jesse Baird and Luke Davies, who were in the early months of a new romance, were allegedly shot dead in inner-city Paddington and, police thought, dumped into the dam. But that theory wasn't right, and now police must go back to the beginning in their search for Jesse and Luke, as their families and a shattered community wait for answers. This is the case that has got all of Australia talking, a horrifying murder, allegedly with a domestic violence motivation, that has police mystified. A serving officer, Beau Lamarre-Condon, is in custody, charged with 2 counts of murder, but he's refusing to talk. Lamarre-Condon handed himself in to police on Friday and was almost immediately charged, but has yet to appear in court. On legal advice, he's refusing to tell police anything, and so the officers, who also happen to be his colleagues, are trying to piece together how this senior constable could have murdered 2 men on a peaceful Monday morning and disposed of their bodies. Until Monday morning, we didn't know much about what police thought had happened after Beau Lamarre-Condon allegedly shot Jesse Baird and Luke Davies in Jesse's Paddington home. But when Assistant Commissioner Dave Hudson and Commissioner Karen Webb held a press conference on Monday morning, the new allegations just poured out.
So I'll hand over to Mr Hudson in the first instance. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And as the Commissioner has indicated, this is a current investigation. An individual is before the court.
Stephen Rice is The Australian's New South Wales editor.
Well, if what they're saying is correct, and let's remember that Beau Lamarre-Condon is at this point just the alleged perpetrator, but if what they're saying is correct, this bloke crisscrossed half of New South Wales over 3 or 4 days in a bid to hide these bodies. So, as we understand it, he killed the 2 men, Luke Davies and Jesse Baird, in a house in Paddington on Monday, piled their bodies into a van, headed to a place called
the Bungonia area with an acquaintance who was not involved in anything but has assisted police with their inquiries. We believe that that acquaintance assisted the accused in purchasing an angle grinder and a padlock from a local hardware store in that area, and subsequently that padlock was replaced with a padlock purchased from the hardware store. The acquaintance
stayed at the gates to this property while he went off with the van and put the bodies into the dam, came back and then went back to Sydney.
On Monday afternoon, police announced they were calling off an exhaustive search of the dam at Bungonia, which they said Lamarre-Condon knew about because of a past relationship with someone connected to the property. The divers could find no trace of the men's bodies.
The police are saying now that having searched the dam and at this point found nothing, they believe that the woman who unwittingly helped him, who remained back at the gates, may have twigged that something was odd, that he realised that she was getting suspicious. And so later on that night, after driving both of them back to Sydney, he then goes back to...
The accused returned to that rural property overnight and during that evening, having acquired also 2 torches from the acquaintance. We can indicate that at 4:30 a.m. on Thursday morning, we can place the accused leaving the Bungonia area before attending a further acquaintance premises at Newcastle in the Newcastle area,
where he enlists the aid of an acquaintance he has. Again, according to the police, this acquaintance acted unwittingly, but in this process, Beau Lamarre-Condon hoses out the van, which, if he has done what police alleged that he's done, would have been full of mud, and then drives back that morning.
That morning at 10:39, he surrendered himself to Bondi Police Station, where he was arrested and subsequently charged and placed before the court.
Risey, it's a remarkable act of physical strength, apart from anything else. The idea that he has killed 2 people in a Paddington terrace, one of the most densely populated places in Australia, has then managed to load their bodies into a van. Both of these people would have weighed 100 kilos, I would think, and then loaded and unloaded their bodies at least multiple more times after that. It's superhuman.
And if you've seen photographs of Beau Lamarre-Condon, he's a slightly built man who, by all accounts, was more interested in chasing celebrities, trying to find Lady Gaga at the airport than anything remotely like this. And so from both a psychological and a physical point of view, this whole case just seems extraordinary.
There are now allegations emerging, Ricey, that Beau Lamarre-Condon had entered Jesse Baird's home before this, that he had let himself in with a key, somehow accessed Jesse Baird's phone, and that he had deleted material and contacts from that phone.
At that point, it appears that Lamarre-Condon and Baird were still in some kind of relationship, and that he had broken into Baird's home and deleted these contacts.
Coming up, why didn't anyone say anything before now? This story is moving fast, and the latest breaking news is available right now at theaustralian.com.au. Plus, our subscribers get app alerts, newsletters and analysis 24/7 for less than the price of a sandwich a week. We'll be back after this break. Since this story exploded into the national news, police have spoken to neighbours, friends, workmates and acquaintances of all 3 men, Beau Lamarre-Condon and his alleged victims, Jesse Baird and Luke Davies. Neighbours heard gunshots and a loud argument. Friends got suspicious text messages. A female acquaintance of Lamarre-Condon was allegedly taken on a disturbing nighttime visit to a bush property and told to wait in the dark, while the off-duty cop did something mysterious near a dam, and yet nobody said anything.
Most chillingly, this 000 phone call that lasted just a couple of seconds that was made at 9:54 on that day. I mean, talk about missed opportunities. There is so much here that we don't quite understand yet.
And there were questions to police at the press conference about whether they should have somehow responded to that missed call to 000. Of course, police are under very high scrutiny right now, Ricey, because a serving officer has allegedly murdered 2 people. What do you make of how police have conducted this investigation and the heat that's on them now?
I think when we're looking at the conduct of the police, I think what we should be more focused on is how this bloke was able to sign out a 9mm Glock days before this event, commit this crime after having allegedly worked at one of these user pays events, dropped the pistol off at a suburban police station in Balmain, then picked it up and returned it later on after the murder to the original police station. I mean, it speaks of a real lack of control over firearms within the police force.
You would think also that when a weapon is checked back in, the number of magazines and cartridges that were supplied with that weapon would be accounted for. It would be obvious that some of these bullets had been fired.
Yeah, I mean, it should be a matter of absolute process that every projectile, every bullet is accounted for when you return a service pistol.
Ricey, questions are also being asked about how Beau Lamarre-Condon managed to rise to the rank of senior constable in the New South Wales Police, given he had this quite unusual habit of following celebrities when they were in Sydney and trying to get selfies with them. He'd also posed up for some photographs that he posted to social media with his service weapon on his hip. He's not been convicted of any crime, of course, and these are just allegations. Do you think that there are questions to be asked about how he managed to get into the police at all?
There are certainly some questions, and there will be an investigation into the way he was recruited. They will be going back, even as we speak, I'm sure, looking at his file and whether indeed he passed the psych tests that all police recruits must go through. They are also looking at various incidents that occurred after he was recruited, but before this alleged crime, including the rather bizarre tasering of a man in very strange circumstances that were videoed. Lamarre-Condon was cleared of any wrongdoing at the time, but you only have to look at the tape of that incident to say, well, clearly it was unusual and possibly excessive. All of these things are going to be the subject of a very detailed scrutiny by the police in the very near future.
Sydney's famous gay and lesbian Mardi Gras is on this Saturday night. But on Monday, police revealed they've been formally uninvited from their usual place of pride in the parade. Commissioner Karen Webb said she was disappointed and dumbfounded, and the decision has caused dissent even within the Mardi Gras board, with some members believing ordinary police should be allowed to march. Here's Karen Webb.
I would hate to see that this is the year that we are excluded because of the actions of one person that is not gay hate related.
There's an interesting borderline here, Ricey, isn't there, between this being a crime committed by a police officer and a crime where two gay men are the victims. Clearly there are some people in the LGBTQI community who are regarding this as a crime against their community, are very upset about it and about the way it's being handled. What do you make of the way police are walking that line and the way the community is responding?
Well, I think there are plenty of other people in the gay and lesbian community in Sydney who are saying, well, yes, this was a policeman who is alleged to have killed these two gay guys, but that policeman is gay. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to be talking about banning police from the gay Mardi Gras. I would have thought that under these circumstances it's more important than ever that the bonds between police and the gay community, which were so broken years ago, that every possible attempt needs to be made to fix that.